Coming up by the hedge, the other side of the beehives, we come across a late flowering shrub which I've known as Eupatorium ligustrinum, but I believe now is called Ageratina ligustrina, which sort of rhymes. Anyway, the thing about this shrub is not necessarily its showy flowers, which aren't, but the fact that it is actually very attractive to bees. And because they are just the other side of the hedge, they take advantage of the easy pickings here. Some delicious nectar, no doubt. Coming up by the more seasonal, you'd have thought, hydrangea paniculata. We haven't quite finished with rhododendrons yet. Here we are in August, and admittedly going over slightly and lurking behind the trunk of Paulownia Kawakamii is a wild collected plant. This is Rhododendron glanduliferum, which has lovely scented flowers and will light up a slightly shady spot. Yes, I have the benefit of its scent, which I'm afraid you don't. But it's a lovely, lovely rhododendron, 15 years old, a present from the rhododendron group of the RHS when they visited the garden here 15 years ago in 2005 with the late Mike Robinson. Coming up towards the obelisk, we come across the flowering of Aurelia elata, Japanese angelica tree, which starts flowering in August. This tree hasn't got a very good shape, and it does sucker everywhere. But there is a beautiful variegated form, which I will show you in a minute. Coming round the corner, we find ourselves looking at the Sphinx's border, because of the two ladies lurking in the shrubbery beyond. And we have Aster fricatii Monch with some Lysimachia. But the main things here are these bold torches of the Liphophia uvaria nobilis. I think sometimes they must get a bit tired because they can fall down and rest on their elbows. And beyond them, Persicaria, Donald Lowndes. And here are the two ladies in question, and the dark tunnel leading to the grotto entrance, which hopefully will have a little bit of light on it. And its shellwork ceiling. one long summer project in 1991. Off we go, past the ladies. And back down towards the obelisk. Coming around the bananas and the poppies, we come across the variegated Aurelia that I talked of a bit earlier. This has formed a really beautiful shaped tree. My 50th birthday gift to myself, so you can tell how old it is. 22 years old. And it flowers nicely. And this one is Aurelia elata Argentio variegata. Dear, dear, I don't make up these names, you know, I promise. We're making our way towards the Albizzia tree, which is flowering just at the top left, but through a shrub which I chopped the bottom of so that I can see underneath it with its leaves a bit like a plane tree. This is Alangium platanifolium, and the reason I cut it so that I can look up is that it has got hundreds of little tiny hanging flowers which open like tiny fuchsias. You might be able to see them better from this side. There they are, dangling and very, very small. The tree overhanging the temple has got lovely dissected foliage and these pink powder puff flowers which you can see all over the top. This is the Persian silk tree, Albitia julibrissin, and the form with pink flowers called rosea. I do like the way it sort of frames the round temple. It has become very big, this Albitia. So you only really see the flowers from the outside until they drop little powder puffs on the grass below. Well, coming around here, just around the round temple, there's one thing I want to show you which is rather odd. Unusual, should I say, not odd particularly. All right, odd. And that is this yellow flowers, the herbaceous plant which is appearing in here. This rejoices in the name of Lysimachia Peridiformis, variety Peridiformis. There you are. You can't get more Peridiformis than that. Anyway, here it is lighting up this rather darkish bed. Here's another version of the Albizzia. This one's a dwarfer version. At least that's what I'm hoping. But it's got the same powder puff flowers as the other. But it's really forming a nice shape. This is Albitia julibrissin ombrello. We're just coming up to a group of Gladiolus Gladioli. And it always amazes me that these are actually wild plants from South Africa. The red form of Gladiolus Gladioli. Wonderful, isn't it? to have these as your wild flowers. Fantastic. Nestling with them is a very dark Agapanthus. In the corner of the tennis court, I see that the beautiful species Canna iridiflora is flowering. It really is gorgeous and completely different from the amazingly overblown cannas that we get. Demure and nodding, and a good pink. Pulling away from the canna, you may remember we looked at this Japanese tree with the most wonderful new growth, Lotus Japonicus. Well, if we pull back, you can see that the tree is now flowering. Well, the autumn border is beginning to crank up, even though it's early days. What I was going to show you mostly was this wonderful species Dahlia called Dahlia Coccinea, which was collected in Mexico by a friend of mine and is now about 4 or 5 feet tall. It's been in the bed here for 12 years. I don't lift it, of course, because we don't need to here. But it's certainly happy. Pulling away from the bed, I want to show you something slightly depressing to my mind, and that is that Acer, which is beginning to turn red. This is Acer October Glory, but it's only August, and I do find these trees that anticipate the autumn colour a little bit on the depressing side. One hopes it'll hang on to its leaves well into the autumn, when all the surrounding foliage turns red and orange. Come down from the autumn border and go back in. We might go just via some of the roses and geraniums, which are having a second go before we finish.